Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. Welcome to part number 8 of this discussion, a reading really of the book by Dr. Ahmad Bassam Saeh called Al-Mu'jizah, translated into English as the Miraculous Language of the Qur'an. And this is part number 8. So obviously this is a continuation from the previous parts. So please look at those before indulging into this video. Otherwise, this would not make much sense to you. Having said that, let's begin. بِعَوْنِهِ تَعَالَى رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِّسَانِي يَفْقَهُوا قَوْلِي. So the chapter that we are looking at today is the Surah's Quranic persona. As we have had occasion to note, the Qur'an makes use of the verb normally translated as was, kana, to mean is. Wa kana Allahu ghafooran rahima. We've discussed this, right? This new usage of the verb kana recurs no fewer than 190 times in the Qur'an. Nevertheless, there has been no instance of this verb's being used in its new Quranic sense in any other piece of writing to this day. Very important to note. The Arabs don't use it. Even today they don't use it like the Qur'an does. They can't. It's not normal human expression. Kana yakunu, kana is mad, yakunu is mudari'. That's how it is used in Arabic. Kana Allahu ghafooran rahima is really a new expression. It's divine expression. It's not used that way in human language. And this is really the miracle of the Qur'an. This applies even to the prophetic hadith. However, the distribution of this issue of the verb kana across the various surahs of the Qur'an is even more remarkable. It is quite natural that a short two-line surah such as Surah Al-Ikhlas would contain only one of the 190 instances of this use of the verb kana. Yakun. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. لم يكن له doesn't mean there was never anyone in parity with the Creator. No, means there is no one comparable to Allah Almighty. There is no one. لم يكن له كفوا أحد. So Surah Al-Ikhlas contains one instance of this new usage. Yet quite contrary to what we would expect, statistically speaking, we find that Surah Al-Baqarah, which makes up nearly 1/12 of the entire Qur'an, lacks a single instance of this usage of the verb kana, meaning use of kana to mean is rather than was. That's what we are discussing. These 190 usages that Dr. Ahmad Bassam Saeh tells us about, it's not really just the word kana reoccurring in Qur'an. It's the word kana occurring in the new usage, in the new sense of is. That's 190 times in the Qur'an. And not once in Surah Al-Baqarah kana comes as meaning is. So what of other surahs that are only slightly shorter, such as Surah Al-Imran, Surah Al-Ma'idah, Surah Al-An'am, Al-A'raf, Al-Anfal, At-Tawbah? None of them contains a single instance. And thus the situation remains up to the 16th surah, Surah Nahl, In fact, instances of this new and peculiar usage of the verb kana are missing from surahs that make up nearly the first half of the Qur'an. However, in the midst of this vast stretch of flat land, there suddenly looms a towering peak, namely Surah An-Nisa, where in a radical break with the prevailing pattern, the new use of the verb kana recurs 53 times. 53 times. It then disappears again until Surah Al-Isra, where it is repeated a hefty 27 times. Then it disappears again for even more surahs and appears in Surah Al-Furqan, where it is repeated 11 times, after which it disappears for 7 more surahs until it appears in Surah Al-Ahzab, where it recurs 26 times. It then appears successively in a manner of the later surahs. There is really a lot of research that has gone into this, and you see how much research Dr. brings to the table. This phenomenon supports our contention that each surah in the Qur'an has its own impenetrable wall of sorts. And that is what surah means in Arabic. It means a wall, a boundary, and a distinct linguistic stamp that sets it apart from the others, such that it would be difficult for the verses of one surah to mingle or overlap with those of another. So they don't really mingle or overlap in their linguistic qualities. As far as I have studied, and I haven't, obviously I'm not an alim, I don't make a claim that I have studied the Qur'an in depth and I know very much about it, but I feel that even in the thematic category, in its thematic integrity, each surah is a unit in itself. And I have talked about this in the previous video, I think, or the video before, and I have compared Al-Farahi's theory of Nazm al-Qur'an with Dr. Ahmad Bassam Saeh's theory, and I am inclined this way. I don't really agree much with Imam Farahi on the theory of Nazm al-Qur'an. Anyways, a still more important aspect of this phenomenon is that it serves to confirm the current place of each surah in relation to all others in the Qur'an, while ruling out the occurrence of any sort of human modification of the ordering that has come down to us. In opposition to the unjustified and prejudiced claims made by certain Orientalists, this phenomenon argues in favor of those who assert that the order in which the surahs are presently arranged is of divine origin, while confirming that the surahs are arranged in the same sequence in which they were arranged in the days of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The linguistic stamp that marks each individual surah is a remarkable Quranic phenomenon which forms part of the structure and persona of the Qur'an as a whole. And this is really the miracle. I think if we talk about Nazm al-Qur'an in some way, shape or form, even that theory takes away from this miraculousness of the language of the Qur'an. As will become clear from our detailed study of the surahs, each surah is set apart by the use of terms that are not found in any other surahs and by new linguistic relationships, formulations, and constructions that mark that particular surah alone. There is, in addition, a distinctive overall rhythm and rhyme that permeate each individual surah and no other. And so then there is a question that Sheikh answers himself, that Dr. Ahmad Bassam Saeh poses and answers himself. When memorizing some surahs, particularly the shorter ones, we may feel as though we are about to shift accidentally from reciting one surah to reciting another that shares in the same rhythm and that has certain rhyme letters in common with the one that we are reciting. This may happen, for example, in relation to Surah Al-Mursalat and Surah Nazi'at, Surah Takwir and Surah Al-Inshiqaq, Surah Al-A'la and Surah Al-Layl. This kind of accidental shifting from one surah to another might, because these surahs, if you pay attention, these surahs sound similar because their ending letters are similar, the rhyme words, the rhyme letters that occur. وَالْعَادِيَاتِ دَبْحًا فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا. And Surah Mursalat, it also ends with an alif. So yeah, this kind of accidental shifting from one surah to another might lead us to think that there is some overlap between the characters of the two surahs concerned, and that the boundaries between them are sufficiently blurred that one might melt into another, in which case our claim that each surah has its own unique linguistic character would be shown to be unfounded. However, a quick comparison between any two surahs, however similar they may appear to be, will show how different their linguistic characters actually are, and that they hardly have a single phrase in common. As an example, let us take Surah Al-A'la and Surah Al-Layl and examine their respective linguistic structures and expressions. This comparison will make clear how disparate these two surahs' linguistic personalities actually are, despite their overlapping rhythmic lines. And so, let's look at these two surahs in Arabic first. This is Surah Al-A'la. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى صدق الله مولانا العظيم. Pay attention to the rhythm. Pay attention to the rhythm, rhyme letters. Okay? Now let's compare this with the Surah Al-Layl. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والليل إذا يغشى والنهار إذا تجلى وما خلق الذكر والأنثى إن سعيكم لشتى فأما من أعطى واتقى وصدق بالحسنى فسنيسره لليسرى اللهم اجعلنا منهم وأما من بخل واستغنى وكذب بالحسنى فسنيسره للعسرى استغفر الله اللهم لا تجعلنا منهم. وما يغني عنه ماله إذا تردى إن علينا للهدى وإن لنا للآخرة والأولى فأنذرتكم نارا تلظى لا يصلاها إلا الأشقى الذي كذب وتولى وسيجنبها الأتقى الذي يؤتي ماله يتزكى وما لأحد عنده من نعمة تجزى إلا ابتغاء وجه ربه الأعلى ولسوف يرضى. صدق الله مولانا العظيم. So did you pay attention to the rhyme letters? يتزكى, تجزى, يرضى. Compare this with أعلى, فسوى, مرعى, يسرى, كبرى. Right? So these are similar in vocal patterns, in their sonic qualities. But when we look at these surahs with a magnifying glass, this is what happens. Surah Al-A'la consists of 72 words, while Surah Al-Layl consists of 71 words. Yet, despite the fact that the two surahs have a similar rhyme, whereby each verse or ayah ends with an alif, the final word in the verse generally following the pattern of fa'ala, yusra, a'la. And despite the fact that they have a limited number, let me clarify this again. Let me read this again, so maybe if it is not clear for somebody, it becomes clearer. Yet, despite the fact that the two surahs have a similar rhyme, whereby each verse or ayah ends with an alif, the final word in the verse generally following the pattern of fa'ala. So, whatever comes on this pattern, this skeletal pattern, would be called following the pattern of fa'ala, yusra, a'la, and other words. And despite the fact that they have a limited number of words in common, like khalaqa, al-ashqa, yasla, al-akhira, rabbahu, and al-a'la, this is where the commonalities end. So he's saying that there are only two commonalities between the two surahs, and there is no other commonality, no other common factor. The first common factor is that the rhyme scheme, so to speak, although you can't really use this word rhyme scheme because this word is used for poetry and Qur'an is not poetry. But let's say that the rhyme letters at the end of the surahs, they follow the same pattern of fa'ala. So that's the first similarity. And the second similarity is that there are a few words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to be precise, 6 words which are common in both these surahs. But this is where the commonalities end. Apart from the aforementioned similarities, each of these two surahs has its own distinct and disparate expression, idioms and structures. Still more peculiar and more miraculous is the fact that most of the surahs and expressions of which each of the two surahs consists are unique to each of them respectively. The structures and expressions which are found in each of these surahs are unique to each of these. So the expressions and structures of Surah Al-A'la are not found in Surah Al-Layl and vice versa. Of the 26 structures and expressions that make up the bulk of Surah Al-A'la, we find no more than 4 in other surahs of the Qur'an. These are khalaqa fasawwa, illa ma sha Allah, fadhakkir, and wala yahya. Yahya in Arabic means to live, right? sometimes, well, some vernaculars of Arabic language, some slang variations of Arabic language also use it as, when you say fulana zindabad, like that. Akbar, Yahya, or anyone, you're rallying for someone, you say Yahya. But Yahya is from Haya, right? Hayat al-dunya, Hayat al-akhirah, and means to live. So, la yamutu fiha wa la yahya. He will not die in there, neither would he live. A'udhu billah. That's what's being said in the ayah that I read earlier. There are two words, two names in Arabic language, to the best of my knowledge, that are related to the living, the life. One is Aisha for the women, and the second one is Yahya. Aisha means the one who's alive, the one who's living to the fullest. Aisha ya'ishu, Aisha. And Yahya is for men. So notice that this name is unique and there is no feminine form of it. Right? There is no feminine form of almost any other name. You can find a feminine counterpart to that name. But even to the name Aisha, you can find a male counterpart, which is Aish. So that's Aish and Aisha. But Yahya is unique in that sense. You don't have a female counterpart for it. Anyways, whereas 22 of them, or more than 80% of these structures and expressions, are unique to this surah alone and occur nowhere else. So except for khalaqa fasawwa, illa ma sha Allah, fadhakkir, and wala yahya, 4 expressions. These are found elsewhere in the Qur'an. 22 of the other expressions in this surah, in Surah Al-A'la, are not found anywhere else, are unique to this surah alone and occur nowhere else. As for Surah Al-Layl, of the 25 structures and expressions that go to make it up, we only find 3 expressions which it shares with other surahs. فَأَنذَرْتُكُمْ, كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى, and إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ. However, the remaining 22 structures and expressions, or 88% of the total, are found in no other surah, including, of course, Surah Al-A'la. So what does that mean? Are these coupled surahs? No, they're distinct. They're distinct. And this is the distinction that I've been really talking about and I really side with. So I hope you guys are understanding this, and I hope that there are no ambiguities, and I hope you guys have studied this book on your own and you're here just for a discussion. But in any case, even if you have not studied it, I hope that you guys are now understanding it. So with that, I bid farewell to you guys, and inshallah, in the next episode of this series, inshallah, we're going to discuss the next chapter, which is the Qur'an's unique character. And so I hope all of you would join me, and I hope all of you will have a good time and inshallah learn something with me. I'm learning too. I'm reading this book in this detail, in this kind of detail with you guys. So I'm learning too. Inshallah, you will learn. Inshallah, bi'awnihi ta'ala. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.